Welcome back, boxing fans. Just let me change this to that. And there we go. So, as you can tell by the title, we're going to talk about Probox and a few takes they had today. Um, Paulie Malignaggi came out in Probox and was really capping for Deontay Wilder and literally was criticizing Mike Tyson. Huh? Why did it disappear? Why is my TV doing this shit? Again, man. Might wait a minute until my TV starts acting up. Smart TVs, right? They're just not going to be as good longevity wise as the old fashioned TVs, which we could last fucking forever. Come on. We will see what happens. So on Probox, Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, and Tim Bradley were discussing Riyadh and this weekend's fights. They were being a little critical of Hrgovic, saying that he was really overrated, not that great. But by doing that, what you're doing is you're taking away a quality win from Daniel Dubois, right? You know, that's the problem with a lot of people. They love to criticize and hate on certain people, but they don't realize that they're literally taking away from other people in the process of doing that. And that's literally what they were doing there. Hrgovic doesn't have a deep resume. And we're going to be talking about that with regards to Deontay Wilder later on, right? It's true. But one of the questions about Hrgovic was all these fighters that were listed to fight him when he was the IBF mandatory that blatantly went out of their ways to duck him, right? And that's the topic that obviously a lot of people bring up. Right? So, do we think Hrgovic is a future Hall of Famer? No. And nobody was ever saying that about him. People were saying that he was a guy who was an IBF mandatory, had been waiting around for a long time to get a big fight. He got a big fight this weekend. He also had a big fight against Zhang, which, you know, in my breakdown of that fight, I thought Zhang won that fight, right? But at the same time, I gave Hrgovic credit for showing a lot of toughness and resilience in that fight. The same thing I did with Deontay Wilder when he fought Tyson Fury, right? The same thing I did for many fighters. Just because you lose a fighter, there's still good things you can take away from it. Hrgovic won that fight, but I felt he lost. But we had to give Zhang credit, which meant going into those fights with Joe Joyce, we gave him credit as a dangerous opponent. And when he won, Jesus Christ, that just validated everything we'd seen previously, right? You got to think about all these guys in context. Joyce, Parker, Hrgovic, Dubois, and I'm missing one, but I think I mentioned his name. But those five guys all there, they're all top 10 heavyweights. Are any of them elite? At this point, maybe it's premature to ask that question. The point is, we don't rate them up there with AJ, Fury, and Usyk. Currently, they're all ranked above Deontay Wilder, who obviously is not the same fighter he once was. And I don't hate on Wilder based on his loss to Parker and recently to Zhang. But it brings the question, a point people have been saying for years with regards to Deontay Wilder, and the fact that historically the PBC has protected a lot of its top fighters to build them into pay-per-view stars, to allow them to build up their careers and their resumes against lesser opposition. I praised him when he fought Ortiz and showed a lot of dog in that fight, specifically the first fight, right? So that's all you can do. You can only judge a guy based on the fights he's literally had. And that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to let these guys share their opinion, and then I'm going to respond to it. I understand all three of these guys are ex-world champions, boxing champions. And if we're talking about the specifics of boxing, punches, positioning, defensive maneuvering, and things of that nature, obviously these guys have tons of experience, more than I do, and would be the ones you would definitely need to listen to with regarding that. But here we're talking about boxing, and they're nothing different than me as far as viewers and participants to a big event, right? They can make predictions. They're as wrong and right as often as I am. Just because they were fighters, they're not always correct in their predictions. Often they're not correct at all, because like you and me, they also are subject to their own bias and their own personal feelings towards individuals, fighters, styles, and whatever else scenario we see. You know, obviously, you would think these three guys would be pro Wilder because he's American. They're all American. It's funny, though, the guy who's most anti-Wilder in this case is the black guy in Bradley. But of course, the LDBC and other people call Bradley a coon, so that would only validate what they've been saying for years with regards to Bradley. I won't say that because that's a stupid, ignorant, fucking racial type of way to attack a person. People are going to have difference of opinions regardless of their skin color and ethnicity. People also call Paulie Malignaggi a racist, but yet he is one of the guys in this that is kind of pro Deontay Wilder and his career. But let's go into it. We'll listen to some of their takes. I'll respond, and feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. My coffee is hot. So let's see if this is the part here.
Before the Fury fight, look at his resume. Tell me one person on that resume that you say, okay, he's a Hall of Famer, he beat a Hall of Famer. Of course, in hindsight.
See, now this is Paulie. Paulie's saying in hindsight, we can go back and look at his resume and we can be critical of it. But the reality is, you and me who watch boxing and weren't part of Showtime like Paulie and weren't biased towards certain fighters and didn't have agendas, we were calling Wilder out for a long time based on the fact that he wasn't fighting the fighters he should have been fighting. When he fought Ortiz, people praised him for it because finally he fought a legitimate top 10 heavyweight that was a real threat. And he won, which was fantastic. We were critical of him fighting Fury because we all know the history behind Fury. You listened to my 78 video when he listed it for us. They were going to fanboy Wilder for that victory, but yet when 78 broke it down, he told you exactly why he shouldn't be fanboyed for it, because it was a cherry pick. 78, the LDBC all knew it. Wilder's team all knew it. It didn't turn out the way they wanted, so then, of course, they had to kick back and say that Wilder was cheated from his knockout, right? You can say that, but you're just making an excuse. The reality is, Fury got up and proceeded to kick Wilder's ass after getting dropped. Wilder didn't finish the job. You had a man that looked like he was dead on his feet, but you couldn't finish it, right? So it's easy to come out and say the ref should have just canceled, stopped the fight. Well, but Fury got up and proceeded to finish the fight. So based on that, you have to say the ref made a good call because the guy wasn't so hurt that he was going to get hurt and that Wilder was going to finish him quick because he was out of the fight. He obviously wasn't out of the fight and ended up getting a draw. And many people feel deserve the win. But let's listen to a little more of this.
Yes, of course, hindsight. But that's like saying, do we ever try to argue Mike Tyson late 80s, who did he fight? Really? I mean, there wasn't really a lot of big names he was smoking back.
Like, listen to that. Now he's trying to compare Deontay Wilder to Iron Mike Tyson. Both two hard-punching Black American fighters. The difference is one guy did not duck any of the top competition in his division. The other guy didn't fight any of the top guys in his division. Even when he fought Fury, Fury wasn't a top guy in the division at that point. So literally the toughest, most highly rated fighter he fought was a 40-something-year-old Cuban fighter who'd never been a world champion in Luis Ortiz. Solid fight. But that is by and far the best opponent that Wilder fought. And you're trying to compare him to Mike Tyson, a man who beat 4 world champions to collect all 4 titles to become undisputed. Was it 4 or 3? And then Of course, you'll listen to him criticize Michael Spinks, but this was the same Michael Spinks that beat fucking Larry Holmes, right? Twice. I don't think he won the first fight, but the reality was this was a light heavyweight that moved up to heavyweight. Michael Spinks should get more credit for what he did just because of what he did, even if he didn't get the win. Just the competitiveness he showed against Larry fucking Holmes, a guy that many people think is a top 5 all-time heavyweight boxer, right? And so then he fought Michael Spinks, who was the lineal champion because he retired or whatever he had done without losing. So he fought the 5 best fighters in the heavyweight division to be considered the man. Did he end up dropping the ball and celebrating his lifestyle too much and ended up losing the fire, the hunger, and the determination? Sure, he did. He also lost his coach who died. I went through a lot of internal camp trauma and other things, and obviously came from a lifetime of abuse and situations that mentally made him not the best judge of character and not the guy to make the best moves in his career. But you're going to compare him to Wilder as if Wilder tried to do any of that. Wilder could have unified titles. He didn't. He could have challenged the best guys in the division. He didn't. Not Klitschko. Not Klitschko. Not the big fucking I'm a god walking the earth. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but you know what I mean. For unification. An in-house PBC fight. Not Parker for unification. Right? He could have fought Klitschko instead of Fury, and those titles never would have been fucking vacated throughout the wind. But we're going to ignore the history, the way his team blatantly came out and said, we're not going to put him in tough because he's still learning. This is after he became a champion. It's kind of similar to what people said about Tank Davis when he became a champion. If a dude's still learning, why are you putting him in world title fights? Why not just let him fucking learn? And then there's going to be far less scrutiny on him. When you put him in a position to become a world champion, now the expectations obviously are bigger, i.e. look at Canelo Alvarez, who gets criticized constantly, especially by Probox. Yet you don't criticize Wilder. You don't criticize Tank Davis, but you criticize Canelo Alvarez.
But everybody's super high on that Mike Tyson, that late 80s Mike Tyson. Was there anybody that stands out in his record aside from a blown up Michael Spinks that makes you think, yo, bad resume?
A blown up Michael Spinks, whose 2 wins against Larry Holmes are fucking way better than anything Deontay Wilder did in his career. Way better. If you look at the best heavyweights of all time, Michael Spinks should be ranked higher than Deontay Wilder, easily. He didn't defend his titles 10 times against low-level opposition. No. He beat the man who dominated the division in Larry fucking Holmes. And then he challenged Mike Tyson and got blitzed. You know, that happens. Styles make fights. He would have fought Evander Holyfield, which would have been one of the biggest heavyweight matchups in history, except, of course, he lost to Buster Douglas. And then Holyfield had to go out there and bust Buster Douglas's ass off, right? So then the fight between Tyson and Holyfield, he went to prison, and that threw everything out. But you're going to criticize the early part of his career. That's like criticizing early Muhammad Ali and say, outside of an old fucking flat-footed Sonny Liston and an ancient fucking fighter in what's-his-face, who did Muhammad Ali beat? Right? Like, that's the equivalent. Like, you're going to compare what these guys did to fucking Wilder and try to downplay their careers to make Wilder's career look better.
I mean, it doesn't. And Mike Tyson to this day, the mystique around Tyson to this day is built on that version of Mike Tyson. To this day, people still argue he would have beat everybody in American history based on that mystique of Mike Tyson. But who did that Mike Tyson beat? And that's not a criticism of Mike Tyson, who I love and adore. What I'm saying is, the era is not his fault. What I'm saying is, let's go easier on Deontay Wilder when we talk about this, because that's only in hindsight we see this.
But it wasn't just hindsight, Paulie. People had seen that throughout. People had commented, made videos, responded throughout. When he fought Romain Stavern, nobody was looking at him, the guy who had an incredible knockout fucking streak at that point, as the next great American. Actually, they weren't. Many people were picking Romain Stavern to beat him, not me. I didn't pick my Canadian brethren. Yes, John Boxing. Romain Stavern is Canadian. Yes, from Haitian, but Canadian. And my Canadian brethren was fighting Wilder. I picked Wilder because I knew with his length, his jab, and his power, he would basically make sure Romain Stavern kept his guns in his fucking pocket. And that's what happened. So he won that fight based on using a jab and should have developed and become a much better fighter working with Mark Breland, using a good long jab with that fucking dangerous right hand. But unfortunately, he was lazy. He didn't train right. He became too reliant on his right hand and he never really developed. And what we said was, you can't be great fighting like this. This is not hate on Wilder. This is facts. You cannot be great when you rely on one punch, because eventually you're going to fight fighters that are smart enough to take that one punch away from you. And now what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? We saw him lose rounds to guys like Spilka, Ortiz, when he was fucking Dominic Brazil, when he was losing round after round after round after round to guys that were mediocre, not Ortiz, but Spilka, Brazil. Guys who had already been knocked out and already exposed as not fucking elite top 10 heavyweights, right? But yet they were winning rounds. If they didn't get caught, they could have easily went on to win a decision against him. But unfortunately, eventually, Wilder landed a punch against them. And because of his power, that changed everything. But that wasn't going to work forever. Right? And we've seen this throughout boxing history. Guys with incredible power that were exposed when they fought a higher level of opponent. Prince Nassim, Hamed, faced Marco Antonio Barrera. Anyone that really watched boxing, like myself at that time, knew Barrera was going to fucking kill him. And he did. It wasn't a surprise. Right? And that's one example. You look at the great puncher Gomez from Puerto Rico, who fought Salvador Sanchez. Gomez was fucking killing people. His power was incredible. When you look at his power at that weight class compared to Deontay Wilder's at his weight class, it's fucking on par, if not more impressive. Yet Salvador Sanchez went in there, beat the crap out of him, and stopped him. It wasn't a surprise. Right? When people say skills pay the bill, they ain't lying. When people thought Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson could beat Tank Davis, it's not that they were hating on Tank Davis. They just felt that these guys' sublime boxing skills and defensive intangibles would eventually be too much for Tank Davis, who loses rounds because of low punch output, relying on big shots to win knockouts. And eventually you're going to be exposed when you fight like that. That hasn't happened yet. But that's what people were thinking. It's not hate to Tank Davis. It's not hate to Deontay Wilder, right? It's just boxing breakdown. You use common fucking sense. You look at the history of the sport. You see how these things play out so you can predict what's going to happen. Some people will make it about race. Some people will make it about hate. They're fucking delusional. So you don't even need to worry about them. I ain't shitting on these guys because they're hyping up and fanboying Wilder. It's just literally you're comparing what he's done to guys like Mike fucking Tyson. And then later on, they basically shit on Ernie Shavers to really sort of praise fucking Wilder. Ernie Shavers' career is better than fucking Wilder. If you don't know that, sorry, you don't know. But that's when we're critical of Wilder, because we look at a guy like Ernie Shavers, who wasn't seen as the best heavyweight, a future Hall of Famer, the best fucking fighter in boxing history, the way people were hyping up Wilder. But yet Ernie Shavers' career was better. He did more, had a better resume, beat better fighters, fought way better opposition, lost because he was fighting way better opposition. That's what happens.
In real time, I was alive during that Tyson era. It looked amazing. Just like I was alive during the Deontay Wilder era. And in real time, whoa, this guy's unbelievable. Hindsight is always 2020. But in real time, we were all buying time.
Like, listen to Paulie. But yet he's a boxer who was a slick boxer. You watch Wilder, and you could see he was a one-trick pony. People literally were calling Wilder a one-trick pony before he became a world champion. When people were booking guys like Chris Arreola to be a better heavyweight American representation than Deontay Wilder. Wilder still had the power, was still knocking motherfuckers out. Let's just quickly look here, and you can see for yourself. Right? Let me just go to my screen so I can scroll down a little bit so I can see too. How far do I need to go on this before I run into Wilder? Mike Tyson, they got it 34. Obviously, this is BoxRec, so don't take this for being the gospel. Top 50, you don't see Deontay Wilder. You see fucking Hassan Rahman, right? You see dudes you've never heard of. Tyson Fury, 58. Terrell, Ron Lyle. I think we're going to have to go down far before we see Wilder. And as I said, this is BoxRec, so don't use this as a legitimate way to basically criticize or hate on him, because I know a lot of the guys here, Wilder probably would have fucking killed in a fight, right? Because different eras, different fighters. Povetkin, Moore, Ruddock, Pulev, Tony Thompson, one of those bums Mike Tyson beat. Chris Bird, there he is, Deontay Wilder, 127th. Above guys like Tim Witherspoon, a very good heavyweight. No one called one of the best heavyweights in history or a future Hall of Famer. Joe Bugner, very good heavyweight. Corey Sanders, fucking great power. Look at his record, 42-4. Let's check out him, the South African. 42-4, 31 KOs, knocked out 4 times, 6'4", 77, called the Sniper. His best win, beat Klitschko in 2023. 40-1 Klitschko, he knocked him out to win the WBO heavyweight title. Him beating Klitschko is a way better fucking victory than anything Deontay Wilder has. Way better. He also fought Klitschko's brother, got beat. Fought Hassan Rahman, got beat, right? Bobby Chez, talk about a blown up light heavyweight. But there he is. His best win is better than Deontay Wilder's best win. That's all you need to know. Also fought Bert Cooper, beat Bert Cooper, a very tough, rugged fighter, hard puncher. The Bert Cooper-Evander Holyfield fight, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Great fight. Right? Yet Corey Sanders is ranked below Deontay Wilder, right? James Jeffries. Wasn't he the first heavyweight champion in history? He's lower. It just shows you context. As I say, you can't really believe anything you see here and take it too serious because it is what it is. Chris Bird, Wilder, 43-4-1, 42 knockouts, 3-time KO'd. We go to his career when he won his world title, right? Beating Bermane Stiverne by 12-round decision. Bermane Stiverne had already been knocked out before this fight against not a great opponent. Only got this fight because Klitschko retired and the title was vacant. And the WBC had Stiverne ranked high. Fought Molina, who was a journeyman. Johan Duhaupas, a journeyman, a Eurobum, as people like to call him. Spilka, right? Already knocked out. At this point, Spilka wasn't seen as a threat. Small heavyweight, guy would have been better at cruiserweight. Chris Arreola was a relic from the Klitschko era. Literally, that's what he was. Washington, undefeated. The first undefeated fighter he fought was an ex-college football player, right? Then he rematched Stiverne, which was disgusting. Stiverne was fucking inactive, out of shape, should never have had this fight. Hence the fucking fact it was a 1-round knockout. And people fucking praised Deontay Wilder's win against him as if it was the next coming. Yet everyone that saw that knew Stavern was fat and in there for a paycheck and nothing more. Finally, Luis Ortiz, undefeated, 28-0, a top 10 heavyweight. The first top 10 heavyweight outside of Romain Stavern when he fought him originally. And then Tyson Fury for a cherry pick. Should have been Anthony Joshua, but they priced themselves out, refused to work with him, and ended up cherry picking an inactive fighter who was coming off of the shelf. Fought Brazil, a good fighter, already had lost, rematched Ortiz. Why? Because they refused to work with any other promotional company. And then rematched Fury, and Fury again, ruined his career, got exposed and destroyed twice, fought his sparring partner, got a great win, and then came back and got beat by 2 top 10 heavyweights. If you think about the legitimate top 10 heavyweights he faced, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 heavyweights he faced, he got 1, 2, 3 wins, 1, 2, 3, 4 losses, and 1 draw. This is not me hating on him. This is just me breaking it down and giving you some context for this video that we're listening to right now, where they're comparing Wilder to Tyson and saying what Tyson had done wasn't that impressive. Let's take a quick look at Mike Tyson. Because, I mean, we're not even looking at Tyson. We're looking at guys that are ranked 100th and something. Right? Now we go up to top-ranked fighters, even though Mike Tyson was on the lower half at number 34. Mike Tyson, 50-6, 44 KO, kid fucking dynamite, right? A guy that had built his name in his amateur career by destroying a motherfucker, right? What he was doing in the amateurs was so impressive. People were so excited to see him in the pros. Unlike Wilder, who won a bronze medal, but was still unknown and hadn't really done much. We think about his early resume, who he was fighting here early, right? He was fighting guys that were ex-world champions early on in his career. Not quite the early guys, because obviously they had him fighting a million dudes to stay busy and build up his resume quick. Jess Ferguson, at this point, 14-1, early in his career. Ferguson was a solid fucking heavyweight. Destroyed him in 6. James Tillis, ex-world champion. Went the distance. Mitch Green was who he was. Obviously, their history was fighting on the street. Marvis Frazier. Obviously, his dad was the great Frazier, so they were hoping his son would be the same. He was so scared, he was shitting down his legs in that Mike Tyson fight. Jose Revolta, solid fighter. Alonzo Ratcliffe, solid fighter. And then he faced his first legitimate world title champion, 31-4-1, Jamaican Trevor Berbick, a guy who'd beaten an old Muhammad Ali, knocked him out in 2 rounds to become a world champion, WBC. Then faced James Bone Crusher Smith. Bone Crusher Smith had 5 losses, but if you go and look at who Bone Crusher Smith was fighting, he was literally fighting fucking everybody. He was the epitome, or the example of a Chisora, a Dillian White, guys like that literally fought every single top fucking guy in the world and was a heavyweight champion. Beat him by decision. Then fought James Pinklin Thomas, 29-1-1, a world champion. Then faced Tony Tucker, undefeated, 34-0. Tony Tucker, who went on to get big wins in his career after losing to Tyson, right? Winning after. Had a great fight with my Canadian, Razor Ruddock. Then faced Olympic gold medalist, undefeated Terrell Briggs, 15-0. Then faced legendary Hall of Famer Larry Holmes, 48-2. His only losses, a little controversy to Michael Spinks, obviously. Then he faced Tony Tubbs, ex-champion, 24-1. Then he faced Michael Spinks, undefeated, 31-0, 2-weight world champion. Destroyed him in 1 round. Faced Frank Bruno, a stalwart heavyweight, a guy that was consistently fighting for world titles, consistently fighting the best fighters in the world. At that time, 32-2, big, massive, hard puncher, a fucking granite head on him. Then he faced Carl the Truth Williams, 22-2, a guy that was a sparring partner for Ali, great jab, great boxer, very fucking slick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 dudes that I just listed there that are better than almost every single fucking guy on Deontay Wilder's resume. 10. 10 of them. And then James Buster Douglas. At this point, we know Tyson lost because of Tyson, not because of Buster Douglas. And he still could have won that fight. Then he bounced back, beat U.S. Olympian Henry Tillman, Alex Stewart, a hard-punching top fighter, Razor Ruddock, a top 10 great hard-punching motherfucking Canadian who I met twice in great fights. If you haven't seen him, check him out. And then 2 bum-ass opponents, Peter McNeely, Buster Mathis Jr. Good records, but not really anything serious. Obviously, this was after he came out of prison, after being in jail because of a bullshit trumped-up charge. Then got back with Bruno, fought Bruce Sheldon, and then fought Holyfield when he was a shell of himself. People act like this was a sure thing. He should have easily beat Holyfield. But he was fighting dudes like old-ass Frank Bruno at this time, Buster Mathis, Peter McNeely, and Bruce fucking Sheldon. Whereas Holyfield had just fought guys like fucking, what's his face? The great American heavyweight. Why can't Riddick Bowe, right? Then he faced Franz Botha, tough, hard punching South African, the White Buffalo, Orlin Norris, a good cruiserweight fighter, Julius Francis, bum, Lou Service, bum, Galata, a very good fighter, but mental, Brian Nelson, nothing special, Lennox Lewis, a money grab, right? This is the equivalent of Deontay Wilder fighting Anthony Joshua now, right? Everybody knew what would happen. Fucking Clifford Etnay, Danny Williams, and then Kevin McBride, right? Most of those fights were mostly just putting money in his pocket, especially after the Evander Holyfield situation. But you want to compare Wilder to Mike Tyson as if his resume is fucking anything close and go, well, in hindsight. What do you mean in fucking hindsight? Psh. Deontay Wilder never unified a fucking world title. Never re-won a heavyweight title. Didn't do anything great heavyweights do. Oh, except he had 10 title defenses, which in itself is not that impressive when you look at who he was beating. But okay, let's listen.
I'm just telling you that the fans are not as stupid as we think they are at the end of the day. And they,
What are they? What are they?
Look,
Holy.
just like I do, and he hasn't beat anybody of any notoriety. And then when it was his chance to step up, when he had this huge reign, right? And it was his chance to step up and face somebody that was worthy of actually stepping in the ring with him, someone that actually could beat him because he was in the protective services of PBC. He lost. He lost to Fury.
Tim Bradley's being completely honest. And the Fury fight was a cherry pick, gone wrong. I mean, literally, you listen to my 78, my subs did, because now I put it on my sub channel because John Boxing was trying to rat me out to get my channel closed again. You cannot make this shit up. The dude talks about me constantly, but if I talk about someone else, he tries to shut down my channel. Low-life scumbag moves, but, you know, 2 can play at that game, right? 2 can play at that game. But, so, Bradley's telling you the way it is. We all knew this. This is not hindsight. This was reality. Everybody that watched this whole fucking situation play out, we knew we wanted to see Wilder fight AJ for undisputed unification, not fucking Tyson Fury. Just like we didn't want to see Danny Garcia fight fucking Errol Spence. We wanted to see Bud Crawford fight Errol Spence. Just like we want to see Lomachenko fight Danny Garcia. See, this is not changing history. This is reality. This is literally what people were asking for. And people on the internet were being criminalized and fucking called out because they were asking literally for the best fighters to fight the best fighters and not be cherry picked and protected by their fucking PBC promoter. Right? He just told you.
I mean, the guy hasn't beat anybody of any notoriety. I think his biggest win is Ortiz. He beat him twice, and that's it at the end of the day. But I hear you. The whole mystique, I get it. I get the fact that he's the biggest power puncher probably in history, top 3. I understand it. And to boxing standards, not the NFL, because there's a lot of guys that I believe it should be in NFL Hall of Fame that are not. And these are like Pro Bowlers, 6, 7-time Pro Bowlers, right? But to boxing standards, Deontay Wilder will be a Hall of Famer. Will he be a first ballot? Probably not. Probably not. You got guys like Ernie Shavers.
And he shouldn't be. He's bringing up Ernie Shavers right now, right? Ernie Shavers, who's a Hall of Famer. But Ernie Shavers' career is better than Deontay Wilder, even though he was never a world champion and he never made 10 successful title defenses. He was in an era that was full of fucking legendary boxers. So when he didn't become a heavyweight champion, it's because he was facing legendary champions that were ahead of him, but he was facing them, right?
That is in the Hall of Fame now. He got in there, I believe it was 1991. He did some time late, but he got in there. So if Ernie Shavers got in there with his resume and what he's been able to accomplish, Deontay Wilder will more than likely get in there as well.
And that's just what I want to focus on. Ernie Shavers' resume. Like, he's downplaying it and dismissing it. Let's look at Ernie Shavers' resume since we're here. I wonder where Ernie Shavers is on this pound for pound list. Primo Carrera, Riddick Bowe, Nino Valdez, AJ, Henry Cooper, Jerry Corey, Hasim Rahman, Cleveland Williams. I think Ernie Shavers on this list is probably going to be ranked higher than Wilder. I could be wrong. Ernie Schaff, that's not Ernie Shavers. Ron Lyle, Ernie Terrell, Buddy Bear, Nikola Valuev, Jim Braddock, we all know him. Unknown Winston, imagine that name, eh? Fuck it. That's a remnant of the slave days, man. Those kind of fucking names. Ernie, where are ya? Carl Middleberg. I mean, Ernie Shavers should be over many of these guys, to be factual and truthful. Frank Bruno, Jimmy Young, James Buster Douglas, Povetkin, Razor Ruddock, Michael Moore, Kurbet Puliev, Tony Thompson, Bird, Wilder. Oh, Shavers is going to be lower. I don't think he should be, though. Ernie Shavers, 152. Let's look at Ernie Shavers' resume. So they say that Wilder is this hard puncher. Ernie Shavers, 76 wins, 14 losses, 1 draw, 70 KOs. He got more KOs than Deontay Wilder got wins. 6 foot tall, 79-inch reach. Not a giant heavyweight at all. Would be considered a very small heavyweight in the modern era, called the Black Destroyer. Knocked out 7 times in his 14 losses and 1 draw. So obviously he was a guy like Wilder who started very late in his career, right? Started very late, so obviously was learning on the job, like many dudes back in this day were. Here we go. Jimmy Young. So he beat Jimmy Young. Jimmy Young, who went on to be 35-18. Obviously, is this the Jimmy Young that I'm thinking? Fought Tony Tucker, Tony Tubbs, Michael Dokes, Ken Norton, Ron Lyle, Muhammad Ali, right? He beat him, a guy that was a dude that fought everyone. And then he faced Jimmy Ellis, knocked him out in 1 round, knocked Jimmy Young out in 3 rounds. Fought Jerry Corey, got beat by Jerry Corey. Jerry Corey, underrated fighter. Fought Jimmy Young again, ended up having a split decision draw. Fought Ron Lyle again, got beat by Ron Lyle. Fought Ali, went 15 rounds, giving Ali a tough fight. Fought Larry Holmes, gave him a tough fight. I think he dropped both of those guys. Fought Harry Terrell, beat him, knocked him out in 1 round. Fought Ken fucking Norton, knocked Ken Norton out in 1 round. His victory against Ken Norton is better than any win on Deontay Wilder's resume. Wins against Harry Terrell, and guys like that. Better wins than or equal to Luis Ortiz, right? But his win against Ken Norton is by and far a way better victory than any resume win on Wilder's resume. Fought Larry Holmes again, got stopped in this time. Obviously, at this point, he was a little bit past his prime. Fought Tex Randall Cobb. And then at this point, beat Joe Bugner, right? Joe Bugner. Lost to James Quick Tillis. And then basically retired from there. But this was a guy who started his career late, was a small heavyweight, but great power. A guy that you knew had power, but because all he had was power, guys that were good boxers were able to beat him, right? And the same criticism people had for Ernie Shavers is the same criticism people had for Wilder. It ain't hate, it's just reality. You can be a destructive monster of a puncher like Shavers and Wilder, but not be the best heavyweight of your era. Ernie Shavers was never the best heavyweight of his era. Is that taking away from him? No. He was a part of a great era, fought fucking great fighters. You look at the guys he fought compared to who Wilder fought. I mean, losing to Ali twice and Larry Holmes twice, or Ali once and Larry Holmes twice, is that better or worse than losing to fucking Tyson Fury? Right? People have their own opinion. I'm not going to put your opinion above mine, but I'm just laying it out there for you.
Only time will tell. Another thing that time may tell is, has the center of the boxing universe shifted?
Well, we don't need to go there. Now they're just going to move to a different topic, which is Saudi Arabia. But let me know what you think. As I say, this is not hate to Wilder, but people were hyping Wilder up to be a guy that would destroy Tyson, would beat Ali. Literally, that's what people were saying. And it's ironic. People that said that are the same people that get emotional and upset when people talk about Golovkin beating Marvin Hagler or Lomachenko being the best heavyweight since Muhammad Ali. When you use these non-black fighters and you throw heaps of praise and bullshit at them, they get offended and say that it's disrespectful. But then when it's a black fighter, they don't feel the same. They don't have the same feelings of disrespect, right? When you're shitting on historical legends like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, right? All I ever said, and I said this consistently, like Golovkin, Deontay Wilder is going to get his chance. And it's going to be up to him to do what he has to do. He got his big fights with Tyson Fury, arguably lost all 3, and got knocked out in 2 of them. Golovkin had 3 fights with Canelo. You can say these were equal. Most people feel he convincingly won the first fight, could have won the second fight, but a draw probably is fair, and obviously lost the third fight. Never got knocked down, never got knocked out, didn't get dominated in any of those fights. But people are happy to shit on Golovkin, downplay him, say he's not a Hall of Famer, he won't go into the Hall of Fame, he didn't do anything. Yet he was a 2-time unified middleweight champion. 2-time unified middleweight champion who made double-digit career title defenses. Never got knocked out, never got knocked down. Was a silver medal Olympian. See, my only thing is it's ironic that people are going to dismiss and downplay him, but then somehow fanboy and try to build up and defend Wilder, who's a bronze medal Olympian. Got knocked out several times, knocked down a shitload of times. Never became a two-time champion, never unified in his whole fucking career. So when you compare Golovkin's career and Wilder's career, it ain't fucking close. We saw where Wilder was listed and ranked on BoxRec 127th or something. I don't say that's legitimate or not. I'm just saying that's their ranking. You can disagree with them. Of course, people will, because there's a bunch of people above him that most casual fans never have heard of. So, it's going to be obvious that for them that he should be ranked much higher. But let's just look at Golovkin here for a second. I'm just curious, that's all. I'm just curious where BoxRec is going to rank Gennady Golovkin in the middleweight division. I say this because I really don't know. I would expect top 25, but I don't know where else. So Ray Robertson, Holman Williams, Harry Greb, Monzone, Mike Gibbons, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Jake LaMotta, Charlie Burley. Charlie Burley ranked 8th. Charlie Burley was never a champion. Why? Because Sugar Ray Robinson ducked him. Gene Fulmer, Emil Griffith, Jeff Smith, B. Hop, Charles Humez, Mickey Walker, Randolph Turpin, Gennady Golovkin, 18. So they have him at 18 with a record of 42, 2-1, two-time middleweight champion, two-time unified champion, with guys like Lloyd Marshall, Dick Tiger, Nino Buenante, Bobo Olsen, Marcel Sedan. I'm just picking the guys I really know. Fred Apostoli, sorry if I butcher his name. Joey Girardello, Sambu Kalambe, Rodrigo Valdez, Rocky Grazianzo, Tony Zale, Harold Graham, right up there in the top 50. Nice going, Harold Graham. Vince Dundee. Wow, Vince Dundee, eh? His brother, trainer of Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard. So at this point, should Golovkin be higher? Maybe he should. Maybe he shouldn't. I'm not judging the rankings. It's just curious that Golovkin gets no respect, yet he's ranked in the top 20 of middleweight all-time fighters on BoxRec. Wilder is ranked 127th, but people act as if somehow what he's done is unbelievable, right? That he's done great. And I ain't hating on Wilder. Where Wilder came from and what he's achieved financially, like Golovkin, both of those dudes got paid a lot. They're walking away from the sport of boxing thinking, fuck, boxing has treated me good. Both Wilder and Golovkin walking away from boxing feeling great about their careers. And really, at the end of the day, that's really all they need to worry about, right? Truthfully, because Wilder is living in Alabama, loaded like fuck, never going to need to worry about anything again in his life. Golovkin, back in Kazakhstan, has a pop company, like a new brand of cola or something that he's selling, a sports drink or whatever, loaded, living large, right? Even the temptation of coming back and making some easy money in boxing, he just wasn't even interested. He was like, whatever. I got that last paycheck for Canelo, and at this point, I could come back, fight a guy like Jaime Munguia, probably make fucking $10, $15 million for a fight like that. But I ain't interested, right? So, as I say, I'm not trying to hate on Wilder. I just thought it was pretty interesting to listen to this take from Probox. People that are so judgmental towards a guy like Canelo Alvarez, yet are finding ways to justify and defend Deontay Wilder, and actually saying, back in his day, in hindsight, But let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Peace out, everyone. Have a good week. Cheers. And remember to like, subscribe, and share.